Apparently, folks, we are going through or getting ready to go through another housing crash like 2008. I want to do a quick thing and remind everybody how bad 2008 was. I have seen many people over the last 48 hours say that we are in the biggest bubble, biggest real estate bubble ever, and that what is coming will dwarf 2008. Instead of just reacting to the headlines, I thought I would go in and collect some data about 2008 and just ask you if you think this holds any water. Some facts about 2008. One, active inventory was over 4 million homes. If you don't have context for that, we are about 25% of that right now. Yes, folks, we have just roughly 75% less active inventory, less inventory than 2008. Number two, in 2008, in one 12-month period, we did 3.1 million foreclosures. I'll say that again. We had 3.1 million foreclosures in 2008. If you look at the foreclosures today, we are not even 10% of that. Next, the unemployment rate in 2008 was 10%. 10. Today, as of last Friday, we are sitting at 4.2%. All in 2008, or the great financial crisis, the GFC, 10 million Americans, 10 million households lost their homes. Housing fell during the GFC 30%, and the stock market fell 50%. So again, people are trying to tell you what has transpired in the housing market is something akin to 2008. Let's not forget the most important, and I would argue most critical detail these housing bears, doomers miss. The great financial crisis lasted from 2006 peak to 2011. So while everybody says 2008 because it was kind of the peak year of pain, it was a 5-year journey to the bottom. Let's not forget that. But the real reality, and the reason that 2008, or if you rather 2006 to 2011 was so painful, was the mortgages, the debt structure behind the house, the home, was flawed. 51% of loans originated in 2006 were ARMs. That is simply not the case today. Why are ARMs so detrimental? Well, ARMs can take a artificially fixed low shelter cost, call it $1,000, and triple it to $3,000 in an environment where you could rent something for $1,500. It was this calculus that allowed people to say, you know what, I'm just going to stop paying and I will go somewhere else. That is not happening today. It fundamentally can't happen today. We have people with lifetime low shelter costs who will fight kicking and screaming to stay in their home because they don't want to go from an $800 mortgage payment to $2,000 rent. Calling what is happening now bigger than 2008 is, yes, attention grabbing, but it also shows that you have no context for what really transpired in 2008. Again, remember, 3.1 million foreclosures. We had 4 million active inventory. We had 10% unemployment. 10 million people lost their homes. Sorry, folks. This is not 2008, and this is certainly not worse than 2008. That is not happening. All right, folks, we got a lot of economic data coming this week, and as I have been warning for 6 months, inflation is going to get worse. We've been trying to warn you about the next 3 months all year. It's just how the base effect and how inflation is calculated. So this week on Tuesday, we will get basically the small business optimism survey. It's called NFIB optimism survey. How are small businesses doing? Are they feeling better? Are they feeling worse? And then Wednesday, this is going to be an important day, folks. Wednesday, we get CPI. Just as a reminder, CPI was at a cycle low headline of 2.3 and 2.8 for core. Guess what? As I have been warning almost all year, inflation is going to appear to be going up. It is expected that inflation, CPI, will be 2.5%, and core is expected to go up to 2.9. This is exactly why the Fed cannot cut. If the Fed were to cut with a stable job market, 4.2%, and inflation rising, that is no bueno. That just the calculus does not work. The interesting thing to figure out about CPI is how much, if at all, tariffs will be calculated in this number. It is my belief that the tariff impact on inflation will be muted, even if inflation goes to 2.5 this month. I believe it will be next month or July where tariff data will start rolling through. Again, this is going to appear like inflation 2.0. It's going to go up to 2.5 and then 2.6 and maybe even 2.8 before we get through August. On Thursday, we will get weekly unemployment claims again, folks. This one is important. Thursday, weekly unemployment claims. Will we get a third week of rising weekly unemployment claims? Will we break through the psychological number of 250,000? Or will we just revert back to the mean, something closer to 220,000? On Thursday, we will get our second of 3 inflation readings. It is called PPI, Producer Price Index. Again, will it have any tariff impact or not yet? We will see. And then on Friday, we will get consumer sentiment. Consumer sentiment was last reported at 52. It is expected to get slightly better to 55. We did get some earnings last week that we didn't talk about. Lululemon cut full year guidance, citing macroeconomics. Shocking. I saw a report that President Trump wants a jumbo rate cut. Yes, folks, President Trump wants the Fed to cut 100 basis points, or 4 cuts, 4 quarters, 100 in an emergency move. I got to ask you, yes, you, the viewer right now, does that make any sense? Again, if you think about what the Fed's job is, full employment, we're at 4.2. And if the experts are right, inflation is rising. Does that sound like an environment where the Fed should cut? Also, let's not forget the big boogeyman in the room. The Fed cut 100 basis points last year, and rates went up. A Fed rate cut does not guarantee rates fall on the back end. Looks like Bank of America survey is out looking at the 2025 home buyers, people looking at buying homes, and apparently 50%, 50, believe the market is better today than last year. Interesting. I would not have guessed that. 75% of them expect rates and prices to get better over the next 12 months. Again, it'll be interesting to see how many folks are waiting for the market to improve. It is estimated that younger generations would be excited by interest rates below 6, aka with a 5 handle on them. Again, it is very interesting. For somebody who has studied the consumer for 30 years, I have shared with you repeatedly that I believe the American consumer can act afraid, act concerned, be conservative for about 6 months. We're going to find out if that's true. We're going to see by the end of the year, are Americans still retreating from the uncertainty that is out there? Unrealized losses by the Federal Reserve are mounting. I don't know if you saw this report, but apparently they just had 1 trillion. That's with a T, folks. 1 trillion in unrealized losses for 2024. And obviously, what's an unrealized loss? Obviously, as rates went up, the bonds that they hold on their balance sheet become less valuable. And bingo bango, $1 trillion loss. They're obviously held to maturity, so it doesn't matter. But yes, talk about a $1 trillion impairment. This is not the first time they lost $1 trillion. Back in 2022, $1 trillion. 2023, slightly better, $950 billion. So again, the Federal Reserve is taking it on the chin. Wells Fargo chief economist Jay Bryson says that the U.S. economy is skating pretty close to a recession. We did get some Fed speak from Fed President Hawker, but before we get to that, let's congratulate somebody for getting his deal, Dustin. Dustin, congratulations for getting your deal. Your black card will go out in the mail today. I guess actually tomorrow. Today's Sunday. So again, congratulations, Dustin. Fed President Hawker, taking preemptive action would be a mistake. I would say so, given that inflation is up and jobs are stable. Now is the time to hold steady and watch. I agree. Much of tariff impact is not felt yet. I agree. Very worried about the state of government finances. Yes, the fiscal spending, the big, beautiful bill, all that stuff. No bueno. Increasingly flying blind when it comes to critical data. Are you freaking kidding me? The Federal Reserve is flying blind in an environment where we have access to data on our phones. Are you freaking kidding me? How ass backwards are you that you are flying blind in the greatest economy in the world? That is unacceptable. Next, Fed President Hawker says something else that really irritates me. We are worried about the quality of economic data. Well, if that's true, shame on you. If you are truly concerned about the economic data that you are getting and the quality of said data, and then you are making decisions on that data, shame on you. The last thing that Fed President Hawker said is, it is still possible to cut rates later this year. Well, folks, it's getting pretty late in the year. We shall see on that. I read some more about Section 899 of the Big Beautiful Bill, which I think is aptly named revenge tax. Revenge tax. Again, folks, what is this? Essentially, it is the right to tax investors from foreign countries 5% a year up to 20% because of unfair taxes or something like that. Basically, I see it. Well, first off, they do estimate that this tax will raise $116 billion over 10 years. I have a very vastly different opinion. I have learned over the last 30 years that capital, especially new capital, goes to where it is treated the best. And if you now are threatening foreign investors with surprise taxes of 5 to 20%, there is a pretty good chance that they will increasingly not invest here. And that could have many, many negative consequences. And then finally, Citigroup says they have moved their first rate cut from July. I can't believe anybody still had July as the first rate cut to September. They now say September will be the next cut. I guess I got one more thing for you. Wells Fargo says that 2026 will be a lot better than 2025. Where have you heard that? I've been telling you that for quite a while, that 26 will be better than 25. In 25, Wells Fargo says that it is a bad year because of all the uncertainty caused by tariff shocks. However, 2026 will be a year of stimulus, fiscal and monetary, tax changes, and deregulation. So again, 2026 shaping up to be a better year than 2025. Folks, don't forget to be a part of our school community. Our school community is where wealth builders go to grow and network with other wealth builders. We are doing a super exciting event in about 15 minutes. We have the three amigos coming together for 2 hours. Matt, the lumberjack, will be on for the first hour. Dion and I will be on for the full 2 hours. We look forward to taking any of your questions, interacting, all of that. I want to welcome people who joined school. Real quick, let me get that list. Where is it? I have so much notes. I will get the list. Oh, here it is. Steve, Letitia, and Andrew. Thank you for joining school. Again, our one rental at a time school community is where wealth builders go to network and grow. I look forward to seeing you there. And then at the bottom of the screen, don't forget about my newsletter. Lance Lambert and I put out a newsletter once a week called Zuber Letter. You can go to zuberletter.com. Sign up. It's free. Go get it. You will enjoy it. Lance Lambert and I collaborate weekly to provide material that is market moving. Hope you enjoy. Thank you, guys. Take care. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.